You know what happened in Arizona, right? Well, Virginia has now gotten into the immigration mix. And here's what their police there are being told that they can now do. I mean, here's the information from the police on this. Ready? Virginia law, quote, enforcement officers, including conservation officers, may, like Arizona police officers, inquire into the immigration status of persons that are stopped or arrested. All right, Bob Marshall is the Republican Virginia lawmaker who asked the Attorney General for that opinion. Mr. Marshall, thanks for being with us, sir. Convince me...
Thanks for putting the program on.
Convince me that this isn't just another political ploy by you to ingratiate yourself to people who can easily be convinced to hate the latest round of immigrants who just got off the boat, just as it's been done by politicians before you for centuries against the Irish, the Italians, the Jews, the Germans. Pick your own immigrant group. Tell me why we should look at you and not see that as your motive.
Well, I'm not clairvoyant, unlike perhaps you are. My wife, who's Hispanic, whose dad was raised in Cuba and Spain, agrees with me. I simply asked the Attorney General, what is the status of Virginia law with respect to stopping and making inquiries as to the immigration status? I have here a Congressional Research Service report from 2004 indicating that, in fact, these stops are legal. I simply wanted everybody to understand in Virginia what the rules were. I was the guy who got the Immigration Commission passed.
That's fair.
So
yeah, that's fair.
But again, it's just, I guess everybody can see it.
No, please understand. Please understand the motivation of my question, because in many ways, isn't this not like picking the low-lying fruit? I mean, it's dealing with a problem from the bottom instead of from the top down. I mean, these immigrants that come to this country, I know it's easy to hate on them, but, you know, they're recruited by companies in the United States. They're given paperwork by our federal government so that they can work legally. And then we hear people going after them. And I'm just wondering, I'm not making excuses for them, I'm just wondering, why don't we attack the businesses that recruit them and bring them here, or the government that lets them stay here and work with a tax ID number in the same manner in which we attack them?
Rick, the we who has to attack the businesses is not the state of Virginia. The Attorney General in February put out an opinion when he was asked by one of my colleagues, can Virginia pass and enforce a law that says it's illegal for a Virginia company to hire an illegal? The Attorney General says, no, we've been preempted by the federal government. So it's up to them to do that. We need to have secure borders. If we don't do that, we're not going to exist as a country.
You are 150%.
This is a great country.
You are 150% right. And it seems like we can't seem to be able to do that. Why is that? What would be your plan for somehow getting this president or the one before him or the one after him to get this done?
Both Democrats and Republicans are responsible, both in the chief executive and in Congress. If I saw what's going on and I lived in a border state, I would say, you know what, federal government, you haven't built a secure fence. The state of Arizona, the state of New Mexico, or Texas will start doing this. It's because they're not doing their job there that we have to have these fallback positions here to try to play makeup. There's general consensus that states and local authorities can enforce the criminal law. We can't really, unless Congress says so, enforce the civil provisions, although there was an unpublished opinion in 2002 from Attorney General Ashcroft that said states have some implied powers to enforce civil provisions, but he didn't specify what they were, so we're left up in the air.
You know, you're a smart guy, and you answer questions very well. Let me just ask you one final question, because I shake my head when I talk about this, as I think most Americans do. We're all frustrated, and you got some on the left who are screaming for open borders, and you got, you know, some on the right who are being equally unreasonable about coming up with some kind of compromise. So let me just ask you, because I know as a Republican the kind of heat that you get. I listen to the talk shows too. Would you be willing to come up with or share in the process of some type of immigration reform that allows some immigrants who've been here for a long time, in good standing, paid their taxes, done all the things that we want them to do, for some of those people, a determined amount, to get a path towards some type of residency? Would you be willing to that kind of plan, that type of strategy?
Well, number one, I'm not a federal legislator, but this is the moral problem.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have a first grader and you see them go in line in school and kick everybody out of the water line or the food line, you really don't want to reward that behavior. This is not an easy problem to deal with.
But what if that? But what
who are fleeing Mexico
Mr. Marshall,
have a good reason to come here?
What if that behavior had rewarded you? What if, as a result of their being here, your Social Security debt went down? What is it here? You know what? I got an example for you. Play that. This is the comptroller of the state of Texas. I asked her, you crunch the numbers. The illegal immigrants that come to this country, do they end up benefiting us tax-wise, or do they take from us? Listen to what she said. Roll that video, Raj.
We looked at taxes paid, we looked at costs, we looked at gross state product. Bottom line, undocumented immigrants in the state of Texas are adding $17.7 billion to our gross state product. And breaking that down at the state level on the cost, the services that are paid for, I'm talking incarceration, education, health care. We net $428 million at the state level because of the taxes that they're paying in.
I mean, it's not to make excuses from them, but I bet you'd never hear something like that on right-wing radio, the guys who keep guys like you in office.
Well, when we had the Immigration Commission, we heard testimony to that effect. The difficulty is a lot of this data is soft because no one wants to write on a form, I'm here illegally.
Yeah.
I mean, clearly, this cannot be allowed to continue.
No,
but the
you're
first
right.
thing we have to do is seal the border. Then let's try to deal with these other problems. But I don't feel safe at night with the border as porous as we have it.
We'll leave it at that. You've been a wonderful interview. Thanks so much for coming on. I enjoy a good, challenging interview like this. I appreciate it.